back on the road here. We got Fanny behind us, and we had a great time here visiting this town and these parks, arches and canyons, but it's time to say later to Moab and to Capitol Reef. It's time to say here we go. So we're under 100 miles away from Capitol Reef, and we're about to get off the 70 in about 10 miles, but we decided to stop even though we had 3/4 because it said last service for 104 miles, and I had no idea if there's anything between here and Capitol Reef, so we decided to fill up, just play it safe. But this is a Love's that also happens to have a 24-hour Arby's. Pretty sweet. Don't see too many of those. We'll share more of them. Along the way to Capitol Reef, we drove past Goblin Valley State Park. The park is famous for its thousands of hoodoo formations called goblins. We decided to skip it on this trip, but it is on our list for a future visit. It's only about 150 miles distance between Moab and Capitol Reef. However, when towing our Scamp, we're traveling at 60 miles per hour max, so trips do take longer than they normally would. At first, this was difficult for me because I like to try to make good time, but I've gotten used to it and I've learned to enjoy the ride. We've arrived here at Capitol Reef, and of all the parks I'm planning for this trip, this is the one I know the least about. I've done the least amount of research. I think it has a scenic drive. I know there's some place that's famous for its fruit trees, and there's a store that's famous for its pies, but really that's about all I know. So I'm going to learn a lot about what the park has to offer. We're going to stop at the visitor center, but I think before that we're going to try to figure out where we're going to stay. We don't have any campgrounds, so I think that's first order of business, find a place to drop off Fanny. So we rolled up to the visitor center just a little bit after 12, and evidently it's closed from 12 to 1, and that's unusual. I've never seen that in a park before, so that's a good, you know, before you go, something you should know kind of tip. You know, better to roll up before 12 or after 1 if you're gonna hit the visitor center. But that leads right into a scenic drive, so we're gonna do that right now. You know, the campground here is full. It doesn't seem as though there are any within 15-20 miles easily accessed from here. Plus, you know, as we're rolling up, there's a lot of mud and flooding, and we don't want to risk getting stuck or anything. So I think we're just going to do the park with Fanny in tow. Try to do it in a day. You know, if we're satisfied, then we'll just move on to the next, and you know, stay somewhere else and not stay right here by the park. But that's the plan now, at least, and it all starts with the drive. So let's do it. Well, it's just my luck. We're getting rain here again. It's 3 days in a row with some type of wetness here in Utah, but you know, it's not really affecting our drive. It's still a nice drive. There's a noted change in the vegetation from where we came to where we are. There's more trees and bushes and less of that kind of scraggly desert looking type vegetation. So that's cool. And the bushes actually blend well. Nice with the rocks and the red. I think that's sort of maybe what gives this its most unique characteristic, probably. At least that's my opinion on it. Bit of mud on her, but the rain washed it off, so that's cool. Still need to clean that up a little bit, but yeah, this is the Gifford house we're about to go check out. It's supposed to have the famous pies. Just finished that scenic drive. You know, it took us 30 minutes, you know, an hour. It would have probably taken us longer, but with the rain we didn't stop really at most of the overlooks. Normally we'd stop and walk around a little bit, take pics, but we don't want to get cold and wet, so we just kept driving. But yeah, this is the historic district. So we're gonna park and walk around here. The rain is past, so we're gonna see what's going on over here at this district. Gifford house is famous for these pies that they make. They run out during the course of the day pretty early, actually, so we're lucky enough. Dawn went in there and picked these up. They have one mixed berry left, the last one, so she went ahead and got that. And then we also have cherry. So let's bust these guys out and see what they look like. Let's start with cherry. I don't know if I've ever had a mixed berry pie. That's something new to me. There it is. Those do look nice, and I have to say, I walked in there and you could smell it. It smelled delicious. It's good. It was juicy. I thought to just have a bite here. It's about midday. Let me try it. Really good pie. Very sweet. Very tasty, nice crust. As I was saying, it's about midday. We haven't eaten lunch yet. Imagine probably within a few hours you probably will, so I'm not going to kill this because I don't want to just have nothing but pie all day. But this might be kind of tough to store since it is rather moist and juicy. Really good pie. Very sweet though. All right, let's try the other. Okay, this one's got more like a crumb topping, whereas this is the crust. Over here, the cherry is a crust. This is a crumb. Not sure what kind of berries we have in there in this mix, but let's give it a go. A little darker color, blueberry maybe. I don't know. That's really good. They're both delicious. I like the crust, but I like the way the crumb mixes in with the filling, and also not quite as sweet. So between the two, this would be my choice if I had it again, which maybe is a more popular flavor anyway. Could explain why this was the last one. I count myself lucky to haven't had the opportunity to try this because this is really good. I tend to not be a sweets guy in general. With that said, I would make a point of getting this, which is really telling about how good it is, because usually I eat a pie and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is worth picking up if you have the opportunity. So we grabbed our stamps and our gifts from the visitor center. We got some info from the ranger there. We did the scenic drive and checked out the historic area in Fruta, which is an old Mormon settlement from the early pioneers. Unfortunately, come to find out, one of the main roads that takes you through the largest area of the park, so it's an unpaved road but two-wheel drive accessible, is closed. They had really bad rain here yesterday, so there's terrible flooding, so the roads are not open. So we're just going to really be scratching the surface here today. To give you some perspective, normally it rains 8 inches a year here in this area, and they got 1.5 inches yesterday. So the land ain't used to that kind of wetness. So yeah, had some issues, but a couple of things left to see. There's a sign we came in, saw some petroglyphs, so we're gonna walk over here now and check them out. There they are. They're actually at the bottom of the cliff there. There's a series of rocks right above them to the left. I can highlight it on the screen. But, these are actually quite bigger than those we've seen before. Most of the ones we've seen are a few inches, and it's hard to gauge from here, but it looks like each one's at least a few feet in height. Quite a bit bigger. Like I mentioned, our plan was to camp out there near Capitol Reef, but as plans do, they've changed. So we're gonna keep on moving, doing the circuit in the Mighty Five. Next up, Bryce Canyon. Like that, guys, the scenery has changed drastically You know, I quit paying attention for like 2 seconds, you know, and then all of a sudden it looks like we're in Idaho or something like that. We got open range cows in the middle of the street, and, you know, trees, you know, that are taller than 10 feet, which I haven't seen that in days. So it's crazy how fast the landscape changes in this state. Alright, so 24 is the road that brought us through Capitol Reef and took us through it, and in the town of Torrey we turned off of 24 and got on what's called 12, which is a scenic byway. And man, I didn't research it, so I didn't know what I was getting into, but truly is a scenic drive. You know, we just gained a lot of elevation, and I think we're up at 10,000 feet now on this mountain, and these views are just really something. Like I mentioned before, the landscape's totally different. I wouldn't even think we're in the same state and even the same region of the country, and you know, we're just 15 miles up the street. It's crazy. And one thing I haven't mentioned about Utah, you know, all these parks, these 5 parks, you know, they're great, but the drives in between them, you know, as scenic and amazing as they are, they're almost as good as the park unto itself. So really awesome. One thing, the wind's picked up. You know, as we've gained this elevation, we've dropped temperature. It's only about 50 degrees right now, so I really ought to get some sleeves on. But I think I'm gonna stay in the car from here on out until we get to where we're getting. But who knows? If we keep passing stuff like this, I'll be out again and freezing. But definitely worth it. I did not realize until seeing the sign that our route was taking us through the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. Obviously the scenery and views here are amazing, but I've since learned that there is some great hiking here as well. When we return to Utah, I'd like to spend a day exploring this area further. This area here reminded me of the Badlands National Park. Maybe this type of terrain is referred to as Badlands. I don't know about that, but it did remind me of them. We would soon be arriving at our destination to spend the night camping outside Bryce Canyon National Park. We enjoyed Capitol Reef, although it was unfortunate that much of it was closed. That being the case, this is another situation where I'll say, we'll be back. As always, thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe to continue along with us. Later.